Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate vision into frontline operations. Today, our guest is Igor. Thank you very much for being on the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me.
Igor, can you give us your full name, rank, serial number? What do you do for a living? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so my name is Igor Gasanov. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bond. We're an insurance technology company and a licensed insurance agency kind of on a mission, helping consumers never have to shop for insurance again.
In a simple term, what is it that you offer? In the simplest way possible, what does your company do for the general public or B2B?
So, yeah, I mean, our focus are really consumers, and what we're trying to do is simplify the way people compare insurance quotes from various carriers and be able to have somebody that's on their side, a true trusted advisor that can help them purchase a policy that is best for them.
Oh, good. So, Igor, we kind of spitballed the title of the show in the pre-show. What is the title of the show? Without going in narrative, because I want to leave a da-da-da-da at the end a little bit here.
It's David versus Goliath.
Da. Told you I'd put it in there. All right. Now, for the listeners, you have to listen to the context first before you pick and choose, before you make your mind up on what does Igor mean when he says David versus Goliath. We have to know more about Igor. Igor, can you tell us your story? You know, where were you born? Where'd you grow up? How are your parents? Because it's important for the listeners and the people who are watching to have a concept of and a context of who you are so that we can attach the title and the discussion on.
No, absolutely. So I was born in Minsk. It's a city in Belarus. And I came here when I was 3. I came with my mother. I came with my aunt, my uncle, and my cousin. His name is Gleb. He's actually my co-founder in Bond. So we have a little bit of a family business going on. And, so we really lived in Brooklyn, really kind of like my whole life in Brooklyn, New York. And I actually just moved out of Brooklyn to Miami about, I'd say in March of this year. So very excited to be here. And so I kind of grew up in New York my whole life, went to public school, just did the usual. I dropped out my senior year in high school, which was a little bit tricky, especially, at that age, being so close to finishing high school, having to deal with my mother and kind of, having to, it's obviously not an easy thing when your kid drops out of school, especially so close to graduating. And I'm just very lucky. I think from a young age, I was always very, motivated. I was always a problem solver. And, thankfully, I give a lot of respect to my mother for kind of believing in me and being able to kind of support me in my decision to leave school. And it was more for, ambitious purposes than it was for, like a lack of being able to achieve good grades or anything else like that. And so when I was young, as soon as I got out of high school, my senior year of high school, I got a job. I worked at a telecommunications company. It was an interesting job. At first, I was primarily just listing things online, listing things on eBay, Amazon, just kind of doing that. And then a little bit later, I was getting more into like the telecommunications side, learning how to like run wires, set up phone systems and whatnot. And it was pretty fun. I believe I was 18 years old at that time, and it taught me a lot. And from then, I realized that obviously that's not something that I necessarily want to do for the rest of my life. And when I was younger, I used to, I was very into cars and driving, and I kept getting into a few accidents, and I ended up going to the same body shop over and over and over again. And I made friends with the owner of the body shop. And after so many accidents, so many conversations, I guess he saw that I was ambitious. And one thing that I really wanted to do was start my own business. And we went into business together. We started an automotive leasing company. So we were helping clients who were looking to buy or lease a car. They would kind of come to us, and we would kind of be like a concierge for them, where we would go out there, find them the vehicle that they need, and do all that kind of stuff.
Good. So did the shopping for others. That's a good idea. A lot of people don't like shopping for cars. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was good. I'll tell you, it taught me so much. It taught me so much about kind of understanding people's wants, their needs, their expectations, and kind of really just helping people find exactly what they're looking for, managing relationships, kind of learning how to, make your own personal sacrifices in the interest of your clients. And honestly, it really taught me a lot about marketing. It really taught me about that you can have the best relationships, you can find the best prices for people, but at the end of the day, it's really about the service that you bring them, and not really making any kind of short-term moves that would impact kind of like a long-term relationship that you can have with somebody, regardless of which side of the field they're on, whether they're a customer or someone in the space that you're working in. And so that was pretty good, and that went pretty well. I'm very proud to say that was it caught traction very quickly, and it was very exciting for at least for the time, for a good amount of time. And then one thing that I always really wanted to do is get into finance. And to tell you the truth, I knew very little about finance. I didn't have any kind of really formal education that can kind of help me pursue some sort of career within finance. And basically, I decided to get out of the auto leasing business, and I really tried to kind of get into finance. And I was very lucky at the time. I had my friend's big sister. She worked for like an alternative finance company. They were specializing in providing all kinds of lending solutions to businesses across the country. And she taught me about the industry, and it seemed like kind of like the best way to get in. She let me know about some of the banks that I could work with in the industry, and it was pretty interesting. And I kind of went for it all the way. I found a basement office in Brooklyn on McDonald Avenue, and it was some of the hardest. It was definitely, I think, the hardest time in my life, at least for the first like 3 to 6 months, and then I finally kind of caught on. And it was such an interesting thing because being that I really knew very little about finance, so kind of my whole schedule was wake up at 6 a.m, get to the office around like 6:30. For 2 hours, I would study as much as I could about finance. I would go to all the banks that I was trying to. Well, first I had to call them and convince them to accept business from me. So I kind of had to digest their whole entire website and kind of come up with my own way to spin it. And the first step was getting them to work with me, which luckily I was able to open that door. And then the second was find a way to get customers. And being that I didn't really have any backing, it was something that I kind of, I took the money that I made from my other business and kind of invested into this. Nothing fancy. I kind of just had my computer, 2 screens, and just sat in a basement by myself, cold calling businesses from 8:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. So I was calling the East Coast, and it got late to a certain point, and I would just stay calling on the West Coast. And I'll tell you, it was tough in the beginning. Nothing but, I got cursed out in every single way you could have possibly imagined, in every language.
In every language is there.
So it was just, it was tough. I'll say it was really tough. It was really tough just trying to figure out kind of how everything works. And, on one, the first thing you really have to do is you acquire a customer, right? You have to engage with them, convince them that, to even give you the opportunity to work with you, and kind of, then you have to get all their financials, get them to get a credit application. Then you have to send it to banks, get them approved, and take that approval, bring it back to them, make sure it's something that they can afford and that kind of like, complements the growth of their business and something that's not going to hurt them. And by the time you get the contracts done, the money gets released, and then I get my commission. It was such a long process. I think for 3 months straight, I had to continue just doing what I'm doing and grinding and hustling and not making a single dollar. And eventually, I think my 4th month, that's when things really started to snowball. And I realized that it's very much a process, and you have to break everything down into little pieces. And, the only thing you can really do is start at the top and just keep perfecting your flow and figure out what works, what doesn't. And at a point, I got really good at it, and business went really well. And I started expanding, started hiring more people, got out of that basement office, got my first big 3-floor office in Brooklyn.
Big,
not too far from where I started.
Huge.
And, it was great. Yes, hired a bunch of people. It was very exciting. Moved to the city. We just kept growing, and we started kind of expanding our service offering, looking at other types of financial products that would complement our clients. And one thing that we were always trying to do is separate ourselves from the other people in the industry. And I think that at a certain point, there was a lot of people doing all kinds of like predatory lending. And I think what we did really internally, that I think what brought us so much success, was I guess identifying them as kind of like the villains. And we had so many conversations with business owners, and we had so many clients at that point. And it's kind of like a very personal thing. I think, well, at least it was for me, and definitely for my team. It's kind of like you seeing these people. They're working so hard. They're trying to achieve their dream, and whether it be something that it was a passion that turned into a business, or a company that was handed down to them by their family, and it's just like they're getting up every morning. They're grinding. They're working so hard. It's hard enough as it is, and taking a look at a lot of these guys' financials, they're not making a lot more than the average American, and they have the responsibility of kind of carrying this whole business on their shoulders, supporting themselves, their employees, their families. So one thing that we always wanted to do is just try not to do what everybody else is doing. Just always think outside the box, and just kind of like really go the extra mile for our customers. And
it's funny how you say that, because it's not. I shouldn't say it's funny. I love how the new generation of business owners are looking in the prosperous model versus then a capitalist. And I use the word capitalism in a bad sense or in a negative term today. But there shouldn't be anything bad about capitalism, about earning a living, but as long as you don't do it on the backs of others. And I love how you're doing that, because our second value for our company is demonstrate care. Like, we roll up companies, and some of these guys and men and women and families have worked their entire lives, and they just can't sell their business right away. And because they're too small, they're too negligible for other roll-ups. So what we do is for independent purchases, what we do is we roll them up. And it's funny. It's not funny. I keep saying it's funny. And it's, when you treat people with dignity and respect, they're a customer for life. If you treat their money like your money, and as long as you're not frivolous with your own money, then people truly will be there. And you don't have to pretend to be somebody else, as long as there's a fair deal. That's all people want, is they want, hey, listen, you are offering this service. I need to see the value that's attached to that service. Now, there's always going to be people complaining and whining and bitching about that. But most of the time, if you're doing it right, people will come to you, and the output will not just be profitable, but will also be fulfilling. There's nothing wrong in saying, hey, I provide good quality insurance product for people. Why is that not a just cause? If you're providing the right insurance with the right methodology in a kind and compassionate way, isn't that some type of anthropology? Is it not philanthropic? Is it not giving back to humans? Why do we need to feel that we need to give people money, or we need to achieve a certain level of success before we can get philanthropic? So sorry, I got a bit on a box here, because I think what you're doing, the way that you're doing it, is absolutely beautiful. So sorry for interrupting.
No, I appreciate that. And, it was such I'll tell you, it was definitely the best learning experience of my life. And I think that it really taught me a lot about a kind of like really what is the value of your relationship, and seeing other people in the space. They're really treating they're treating people as if they're just disposable. And it's just kind of like, they try to make tons of money on them, tons of fees, put them in terms, at the end of the day, these people are using this money to finance their business, to grow their business, sometimes to help them out of a bad situation. It's kind of like, you can't take advantage. They're still going to be here, at the end of the day. And it's like, our whole approach was do the right thing by our customers, and just kind of let them stay with us. And it was weird, because at a certain time, I think a really valuable lesson that I learned was, in the beginning, I was always very honest with people. And, I started losing a lot of business because of like this honest approach, where I was telling people the reality of what they can expect versus what other people were telling them, kind of like some pie in the sky, something that they'll never really be able to get. And I always just kind of like, listen, if there's a better option on the table, you got to do what's best for your business. And at a point, I was starting to get a little discouraged, and this was like all the way in the beginning. And I'm just like, am I doing it wrong? Do I need to be dishonest? Do I need to like kind of bend the truth in order to get the result that I want? And I didn't, and I was very happy that I didn't, because a lot of the customers that I thought I lost actually ended up coming back and being like, look, I was working with other brokers and everything, and it seems like you were the only person that was honest with me from the start, and I appreciate that. And I came back and I got the business. And from then on, I kind of modeled everything that I do based on that principle. Just tell people exactly what it is. It's up to them. If somebody can talk them into something else, well, listen, at least I don't want to be the one that's kind of pushing them in the wrong direction. I'm going to give them what I think is the best possible option, and whatever,
I want to see how far back this goes with this honesty is the best policy for Igor. When you told your mom that you didn't want to, because I can just imagine, Your mom's coming over, just her. You're coming from the Baltics, which is more traditional, right? So, and so for those people who are listening and not watching, Igor is rocking a crazy mustache. So he's got an amazing mustache going on, and
That's a new one.
a lot of Baltic blood in his appearance as well. So I can just imagine your mom, who's busted her ass all of her life, and what she's thinking. I want to make sure that I provide Igor with the right and the ability to go to school. And she's working her ass off, and she's doing all of that so that you can eat, educate yourself, and be a better person and get more out of life than what she grew up with, I'm assuming. I'm putting full immigrant speculation on this here, because I think pretty much everybody's got that same situation. My grandparents came over with my father, and they had very little. So with that being said, were you honest with your mom when you said, "Hey, Mom, I don't want to keep going to school"? Were you honest with her?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If she was listening, she would say, "Yeah."
You know what? She makes it very easy for me to be honest with her. I think I'll tell you,
okay.
I'm so lucky. Yeah, she's one of the kindest people, and she has so much confidence in me. And I think that I think she was never very, like, I think she was, I really appreciate her ambition. I mean, moving to a new country, and obviously,
shit.
you're leaving something worse behind, but you're coming to a new place. You don't really have any family here. You don't have friends. You don't have, you only have a very small circle of people. You're
You
coming
don't
here
speak the
with
language, barely speak the language, right?
terrifying. It's terrifying even today. Like, listen,
Yeah.
I don't have kids, a family, and everything else like that. But if I just had to pick up tomorrow and move to a new country, and like, obviously, learning a completely new language, it's so scary. And to come here and to do all of that while simultaneously you have a young child, I give her so much credit. And then I think as I started getting older, like, I really appreciated just kind of like hearing her wake up early. Sometimes she would take like overtime to be able to go to work, just work an extra hour a day. And it's like, just have that extra little tiny bit of money. And it's like, I always used to remember hearing her wake up early. And then like on days where it's like really bad weather, you get like the New York snow, the rain, all that type of stuff. It would just break my heart knowing that, like, she has to get up and go to work. So I think it's just like something that stuck with me. And I'm just like, I cannot wait until I get to a point where she doesn't have to do this anymore. And I think she always knew that even from a young age, I'm just like, I was always so ambitious. Like one thing, like when I was younger, I used to be super into skateboarding. I was always like drawing out my own like skate shop. I'm like, one day I'm gonna open my own skate shop. I'm gonna build this ramp inside and do this and do that. So it's like, I was always like showing my mother like, oh, I have all these great ideas and all this type of stuff. And I remember one thing that she told me when I was younger. She was like, "You're never going to be successful." And I was like, huh? And I remember I was so angry at her because like I kept throwing ideas her way. And she was like, "Unless you actually go forward and finish one of these crazy ideas that you come up with," she's like, "if you don't," she's like, "you're never going to be successful." And I remember, like that kind of stings when especially when you're young, and
shit,
like,
that's a good piece of advice though, right? I was like, oh.
She kicked me in the ass, and I'll tell you, it went a very long way. And it's like, anytime I always like, I got to the point where I'm like, shit, like, I'm like flailing a little bit, it's like, I never really had a mentor. I never had someone that kind of like helped me guide the way. And it's like, I had to get all the bumps and bruises. And after a while, I just like, sometimes you're like, oh, am I doing the right thing? And it's just like, I think about her there all the time. And it's like, damn, I can't let her be right. So if not,
Mom, if you're listening, what's your mother's name?
Oksana,
if you're listening, your point, you kicked in the right spot, Oksana. You kicked in the right spot, gun forward. Oh yeah. So I mean, there's so many things to unpack in the story of it. And I think for me, the two things is when you're doing business, when you're starting off, what Igor has done well is that he wasn't like a lot of people are afraid of cold call, right? And because they're afraid of rejection, they're afraid of a no. It's just like, keep going. At a certain point, you're going to figure out if this is worthwhile or not, right? Igor, I'm sure that in the back of your mind, you're saying, okay, this is month 4. If I keep going this way, sometimes too many founders go down this path where they just keep throwing. And all of a sudden, sometimes I look at businesses and they go, wow, you've used your personal money to get your company out. You are so intertwined. There's no way that I can take this company out because you've invested so much of your own. You're going to have to let go and pick one or the other. But there's too many times. So I think what a lesson in Igor's journey is really make sure that you put a milestone and you say, hey, here's a checkpoint. If I don't make this checkpoint, I've got to seriously consider one way or the other. But be intentional about what's that metric that you want to, that will keep you going. And so I think you had some good insights in it, although you're just doing it off the corner of your desk or in the basement, I should say. Good on you.
Yeah.
Good on you.
No, well said.
So Igor, what is the title of the show?
So David versus Goliath, and
so let it sink in for a second. I want the listeners and people watching going, "Oh, David versus Goliath. What do you think it is? How is it? Where's the conversation going to go?" All right, let's let the suspense go. Why did you pick David and Goliath?
Well, I spoke a lot about kind of my life in a previous business, but I guess I should kind of circle back to Bond and what we do when we're doing here in the insurance space. I spoke a lot about alternative finance, and we got into insurance completely by accident. In the beginning of 2020, we built out this huge office. We're adding a whole bunch of other services to our product offerings. And we're like, commercial insurance would be an absolutely great product that our customers would benefit from. So we jumped into it. We gained traction like so quick, and it was very exciting. And we built a whole team around it. And 3 weeks after we launched that department and launched our whole new office that we were building out for months, the pandemic started. And that was a big one, just because on the lending side, we had to completely suspend that side of our business. There was nothing that we wanted to do. Obviously, no one knew what was going to happen next, so we had to stop all that. On the commercial insurance side, we were really focusing on construction risks, which in New York, all the construction companies were out of business for quite some time. They had no idea what was going to happen. And we knew that we invested all this money into this beautiful office overlooking the city, and we have all these employees that we just took on. And it's like, what are we going to do now? Now we're in kind of like this moment of instability. We have to make a choice. And we did a lot of research, and we said, you know what? Let's drop everything that we were doing and let's pivot in a completely different direction. And one thing that it's something that a lot of people deal with, especially here. It's just shopping for insurance is a real nightmare, especially like things are changing all the time, and it's very hard for consumers to kind of keep up with insurance carriers. And in general, there's not much communication going on between all the different people in the industry. And we realized, we're like, you know what? Property and casualty insurance is one of the biggest industries in the country, and today it's the 9th biggest industry in the country. And we're like, you know what? Let's start working on a way to make it a lot easier for people. And being that we were in the insurance industry, we thought it was going to be pretty simple. We're like, here's what we'll do: we'll create a platform. We'll partner with the biggest insurance companies in the country. We'll connect our systems to theirs, create a beautiful brand that people would want to interact with. They go on our website, they apply, and then instantly we provide them with quotes from all these different carriers. With a click of a button, you could buy a policy, and that's it. You're good. And then we learned what we actually needed to do to get on board. And I think, to circle back to David versus Goliath, one thing that we knew is that there were already people that were doing this in the space. And when you take a look at how much money they raised, even just to get started, some of them raised tens of millions of dollars. Some of them are up to $500 million in funding. Some of them even more. And we're sitting here and we're like, wow, this is a really big industry. In order to be able to compete on a national level, you're going to need billions of dollars for marketing. And it's a really, really big business. Like the top 10 carriers are spending, I think, well over $10 billion on marketing. And being that, the way that I see it is, because we're a broker, we can be bigger than any one individual carrier, whereas they provide only one option, and carriers are typically winning a very small percentage of their business that's coming their way. We can win if we're working with all the carriers. There's no reason why we shouldn't be winning that business most of the time. So we decided, after we did a little bit more research and tried to pursue our first partnership with an insurance company, we learned that you have to be in business for at least 3 years, which at the time we were only in business a few months. They want you to do 10 million plus in premium every year. And they need to analyze your book of business, make sure that there's a nice slice of that business that would make sense based on their own appetite. And we were at a crossroads. Me and my co-founder, we were sitting there and we're like, wow, on one hand, we have to begin developing this whole platform. And on the other hand, it's kind of like it's going to be worthless if we can't get these partnerships with these insurance companies. But by every factor, we don't meet their requirements. And luckily enough, I think our business model, a lot of the insurance companies recognize that as the future and as a growing need amongst consumers. And they opened the door for us, and we got our first partnership 3 months after we incorporated our business, which is very incredible. And we did it direct too. We didn't join any groups or any networks, and we kind of just went direct. And over the past 2 years, we've just been working on our solution. And obviously it came with a lot of personal sacrifices. We were self-financing the company almost really up until now. And, we have a great team. Most of the time, we're a team of under 10 people, and everybody was just super passionate about what they do. And I think we were able to we're in an incredible position today where we have a working product. And so far, it's been really great. We've been getting a lot of great feedback from our customers, a lot of great feedback from the partners that we work with. And more than ever, I realize that what we're building now is really the future of insurance. And I think that the title for the show, I think really, I think it complements that. We're a very small company competing in a very, very big space, and we were able to do it with a fraction of the resources that some of the other people in the space had available to them. And we're kicking ass.
Why did they pick you? Why you? Why David? What was different? Because money is money. Let's face it. And revenue is revenue. So why did they pick you? What's the itch that you scratched?
I think definitely because we caught so much traction on the commercial side of insurance in such a short period of time. I think the people, we didn't have direct relationships with the insurance carriers, but we used middlemen to be able to get to them. Mm-hmm. And on one hand, they were an advocate for us, but essentially we had to present a business plan to all these different carriers and show them hey, this is where we're going. This is what consumers want, and here's how we're going to tackle it. Here's how we're going to give them what they want while simultaneously giving you guys what you want. And I think that based on our presentation and based on kind of what we were able to achieve in the past individually and as a group, I'm very happy to say the team that I have now, we've been working together for a very long time. So we had a really good team, and I think they just really believed in the model. And we were definitely not the first people that were doing it. And we recognize some of the things that our competitors are doing well and some of the things that they can be improving, and figuring out what the carriers, what was important to them, what they liked about working with companies like ours and what they didn't. And we were kind of we're committing on making things better for everyone across the board. So from our people internally, from our agents to, our developers, to really just about everybody, to the customers, to the partners that we work with. And when I say partners, I mean people at the point of sale. One thing that we're really trying to do is anyone who has insurance as a part of their process, like dealerships, leasing companies, anyone who's in the process of selling a car, a home, we're creating solutions to, as soon as you get to the insurance part, you can hand that off to us, and we'll give your clients the kind of the ability to shop the market, especially at a time where for most people, they're trying to fall within a budget, and a lot of times they're able to unlock additional savings that they weren't really expecting because they weren't going to invest the hours and maybe sometimes days that it takes to sit here and apply to all these different carriers, compare pricing, and helping people make better decisions. So our partners are really happy about it. And overall, I think that's what got them so confident in what we're building. We had a good plan, and at this point, I'm very proud of our team. We have an incredible team that was able to kind of really nail it on the head on every side of what we're building.
I'm still not sold on. So we've got massive Goliaths out there that are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on marketing. And the insurance providers are making money from the collection. So the return, right, versus the collection versus the output that's how insurance for those people. Can you, for the sake of people or the listeners, can you describe how insurance works and how do they make money? Because I think a lot of people don't understand the concept of insurance. Well, they understand the bigger lines, but what makes a company better than another in regards to insurance? What's the insurance model, and how does it all fit together? So, because I feel that a lot of people don't understand what you do and the complexity behind it. So how do you simplify that for everybody?
So I think the first thing is really just understanding all the different players that are involved in the space. So on one hand, you have insurance carriers, the companies, the actual, your Progressives, your Travelers, your Allstate, your State Farms, those type of companies. Those are the actual insurance companies. They're the ones that are actually writing your policy. And in the event that something happens, they're the ones that will be paying for your claim. Now, how do insurance companies make money? many different ways. Obviously, everybody has their own formula, so I can't say that, every company follows the same methodology, but most of the time, those premiums that are being collected, a lot of carriers are taking that money and reinvesting it. And a lot of people think that insurance companies make a ton of money from selling insurance. In fact, usually it's from alternative investments where majority of the revenue comes from. So on one hand, you have the insurance companies, and then you have your captive agents, which are like they're like, I mean, it's kind of, I'm not going to say they're kind of like an independent agents. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've driven by sometimes and seen like an Allstate storefront, and you can walk in there, you can call them, you can contact them, like a State Farm. They have like that franchise model where they have like a lot of little independently owned agencies who are partnered with State Farm, and they represent one carrier. So that's what we call a captive agent, and they make their money through commissions and bonuses and profit sharing that they get from the carrier that they work with. So if you go to a local Allstate agent, you write a policy through them, that agent's going to get compensated by the insurance carrier for bringing them the client and also just servicing the client. And then you have independent agents. Independent agents are also, a lot of them are kind of like your local, traditional type of brokerage. They are not exclusive to one carrier. They work with several carriers, and they focus on different lines of business. Every brokerage is a little different. Some of them work on just focusing on personal insurance products. Some work on commercial, and they get paid the same type of way. They get paid in profit share. They get paid in commissions, and what they're supposed to do is really kind of shop the market for you and help you find the best possible policy for the best possible price, and just make sure that you're always there, and you're always paying the best rate, and your policy is kind of changing based on your life events, whatever's really happening to you. And that's kind of like the different players in the space. Now, we're an independent agent, so we have the same thing where we're partnered with a whole bunch of insurance companies. We have almost 16 different carriers that we're partnered with right now. When we write a policy, we receive a commission, and our service is entirely free for our customers. And a lot of questions that we get asked sometimes is, why go to you versus going to a carrier directly? And I think if anyone has ever shopped for insurance before, they realize that it's a very, very tough process. And the cool thing about working with us is you go online, you go on our website, you apply. We don't require an account. We don't require you to download a mobile application. You could just go there and apply. Instantly after applying, we show you quotes based on the information that you provided. So the more accurate you are, the more accurate your quotes are going to be. But, a lot of times some people, they don't remember all their violations or when they had a claim, whatever. So the initial thing, the initial part of the transaction is strictly between you and the carriers. We're just making it super easy for you to be able to kind of get your initial quotes and know where you stand. Now, in order to be able to purchase a policy or to obtain like any kind of final pricing or do anything else like that, we have different ways that you can connect with one of our advisors. Now, our advisors are licensed insurance agents. They work directly for the company. And what's kind of cool about them, and usually, I hate that this has gone this way, but a lot of insurance agents, they're looked at in not in a great way. And I think that
like car salesmen, right? They just, you're conniving, you're scheming, you're trying to sell me the worst thing for the most money. And that's how people feel about insurance salespeople.
And what we try to do is, your traditional agencies, they have very limited access or knowledge of technology. A lot of the people in the space are a lot older, so it's very hard for them to connect with a younger audience and just give them an experience that they're looking for, in today's world. And what we're trying to do with our agents, we don't pay them commissions. We don't have sales quotas. We don't do cold calling. We don't do any of that stuff. We have them focus. And here's the thing too. I think we're one of the only companies that don't pay commissions and just pay our people well and just let them really focus on giving clients the best experience they ever had in this industry, and hopefully out of any industry, but if nothing else, at least the insurance industry. And we let them know, listen, you close a sale, you close a sale. You don't close a sale, you don't close a sale. You don't push anything. It doesn't matter which carrier you offer to the client. Just do what's in their best interest. And that's kind of like what we're trying to do. And at the same time, we're trying to educate our team of advisors, trying to always give them more education, trying to help people understand things outside of insurance and how we can be more of kind of like an advisor to a customer, even about things that might fall out of the scope of insurance. We have a lot of people who are, moving into their first apartment or getting off their parents' policy. And there's just a lot of things where you really need that hybrid of technology and also that personal touch. And the advisors that we have, honestly, they're incredible. They're able to find solutions to problems that most people wouldn't figure out themselves. And I think that in InsurTech, which is the industry we're in, I think a lot of companies are worrying maybe too much going digital. or kind of going the opposite way. So it's finding that good balance. And I think
Mhm.
that's we kind of nailed it on the head. I think we have a perfect balance, and we're giving people a lot of different options in terms of how they can purchase a policy, and they can they can call our people, speak to them at any time, any questions, and really treat them as somebody that they know that isn't trying to sell them anything. And I
The
think that's
secret
really
sauce. There is a secret sauce in there that I've been advocating for a long time. Transactional versus transformational. If you've ever had a meal in France or Japan, you will notice that the service is always above standard. The reason why? They don't get tips. They don't get tips. They get paid the fair market value of a waiter. They have in Japan, they do the same thing. There is no tipping in Japan. There's no tipping in France because they are paid fair market value, fair market wages for that.
that's brilliant.
Therefore, one table does not deserve more attention than another. The service is identical through in, throughout. It is transformational and not transactional. They're not trying to pump out as many people as possible. They make sure that the experience for them to come back to the restaurant is the highest because the food was amazing, the drinks were amazing, and the service was amazing. And that is a key component to any type of industry. If your product is delicious, if the experience is delicious and amazing, that means that they are ready and willing to pay the price to come back. And therefore, they have their favorite spot to be able to dine because I know that the service is always, at this level of standard. Okay. And a lot of people tend to forget that. And I think that what you've demonstrated again, so there's, I currently live in Vancouver, British Columbia, and there is a restaurateur who is the David here in the Goliath world of restaurantation or restaurants, who's doing that, who's like, I'm hiring people for their ability. People are leaving their jobs elsewhere to work for this individual. And he can pick and choose the cream of the crop because of that. He doesn't need to do performance management. I'm sure that, Igor, you do the same way. You sell, you don't sell. But if you don't sell, it's part of a KPI. Well, how come you're not selling? Is it that we're not providing you with the right services? We didn't hire you properly? You look at the process, not the individual. Right?
Yeah.
Same thing. If somebody is selling more than others, you don't promote that individual. You say, okay, why is James selling more than Lisa? I don't know. Well, okay, Lisa's new. James is here longer. So, maybe Lisa's having a hard time at home. I don't know, whatever. But you're focused on ensuring that your individuals, your team members, are well surrounded. Now, and hard work is compensated. You're not saying that they're slackers. You're not saying that, oh, we go in and we play ping pong all day. That's not what you're saying. Is you're
Yeah.
saying, okay, well, there's different metrics of performance and they're not transactional. They're transformational. How are you ensuring that you are transforming that person's life or experience when insurance from a negative one where that individual felt abused, not abused, what's the right word?
It's pressured.
Pressured is a good one. If they felt pressured, they felt lied to a positive experience where they go, oh shit, Lisa was absolutely fabulous. Like, why would I go anywhere else, right?
Exactly.
And so I think that the secret sauce of David versus Goliath is not necessarily in what you market; it's how you operate.
Yeah, and I think that's what gives us so much confidence in what we're doing. I mean, I'll tell you the truth, we operate in a very weird way. We really
Hey,
do.
weird
Like,
is good. Hey, David and
yeah,
Goliath. He shot the guy down with a slingshot, man. Like,
yeah. No, it's so funny because, like, yeah, I mean, I can't even tell you, like, the feedback that we get from our team. And by the way, like, I think we have that, like, servant leader mentality where at the same time, like, we don't believe in titles. We really don't care. So we went completely remote. We never went back to the office. So we have people all over the world actually working. And it's pretty incredible. And we're able to achieve so much, and our people love what they do. And I don't like, there are certain hours where we have to be available,
Of
but
course.
we, like at this, like I don't know, like there's been so many times where somebody has to like leave early or take off, or like, today it's one of our agents' birthday, and she wants to leave a little early. It's like whatever, just as long as there's someone there, where it's like we're not
Yeah,
gonna all of a
exactly.
sudden provide a bad experience to our customers as a lack of someone there. It's just like it's all good. Like people, there needs to be that work-life balance, and I know there's a huge discussion going on about like, is remote the right answer? Is hybrid the right answer? Like, do you want to go back to the office? And it's just, we work in a very odd way. People don't feel like they're working, and I think that is something that, if we're able to replicate this on a very large scale, well, then I mean, there really won't. There's no stopping us, because we're taking something that people hated. And it's funny, when we put our job ad up initially, talking about how like we have like this new type of, we're like trying to deliver this new type of experience, and we don't have commissions. There's no sales quotas. There's no cold calling. There's no manual work processes. We were supposed to, I believe, get 6 applications based on our budget per day. We got 160 overnight. So like it's very
Hmm.
different from what's happening in the industry. And we're like, wow, this is very interesting. And I spoke to as many people as I possibly can. And I'm just like, wow, this is super interesting. I was like, there's a lot of people in here that just, they
I
hate
feel
their
your
job.
pain. I feel your pain every time we post a job up. It's so disappointing because I'm kind-hearted. Don't tell anybody, but I'm kind-hearted, and I wish I could employ everybody. Like everybody that applies, like there's people that are applying from Indonesia, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. Like I wish I could bring everybody over and give everybody a job and give them a fair, prosperous. And as this breaks my heart to have to pick somebody, uh, I hear you. I think what the value is that you're providing is, again, people want to see that transformational event, for not just for, if they feel good about what they do on a day-to-day basis and they feel that they're treating people the way that they want to be treated. That's I'm coming back to what I said at the front end. It's rewarding. It is rewarding. It is philanthropic. If I get to talk to people every day and they leave and they go, wow, that was a really nice person over the phone, you've changed that person's mindset and therefore his day. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. That is philanthropic. We try to say, oh well, I want to make a gajillion dollars so I can give back to houses for humanity or something like that. I'm not saying it's a bad cause. That's not what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
there's different ways to be philanthropic through your day to day lives. You
Well said.
don't have to change the world. There's there's a word of caution for what Igor is doing right now, because when you grow to a certain amount of people, to scale your business, there has to be some type of span of control.
Mhm.
So, as much as Igor loves his business with 15 people and how it is, at a certain point, the bigger the organization, the more structure you have to create with it. Now, you want to keep the structure as nimble as possible. You want to keep as least title as you can, but at a certain point, there needs to be some type of structure to create clear direction and tracking, right? Continuous improvement is plan, do, track, adjust. Who does the planning and tracking? Who does the doing and adjusting? And as you grow your business, you need to have a certain span of control. One individual should not lead more than 5, because then you lose information. There's a lot of stuff that loses. So for the audience, Igor's in a sweet spot. His maturity is great. That functions well for him now. A little bit later on, when he adds, another $10 million, that brings a different set of rules. How do you hire? How do you fire? They're just those things as a whole. Um, Sometimes take a life of their own, because there's just not enough. You look at what needs to be done within the function, and then you look at process accountability, and he says, who's accountable for the process, but who's responsible for getting the process done? It can't always be the same person. When you're 15 to 20 at the revenue you've got, very doable. Always think about, how do I keep this beautiful culture of kindness and compassion within a major corporation? That's the prosperous mindset going forward, right? So again, how do you
Absolutely.
say as transformational as possible for your business and for your clients?
Yeah, I'll say, I think, it's funny. Right. So when the pandemic started, and we had a few months of just kind of like downtime figuring things out. Um, me and my co-founder, we sat down, I think, for a good 3 months with Pamela. She's our creative director at this point. She started out as a copywriter and kind of really worked her way up, and she's awesome. So we sat down and we wanted to figure out, like, we kind of came up with our own handbook, like the identity for the company, like really the soul of the company, and kind of came up with like our whole thing that's called like the Bond Steps of Service.
Oh, nice.
And it's the way that we approach every interaction, no matter who you're having it with, whether you're like a business development person, or like a partner relations guy, or like one of our in-house like agents, or just anyone. And I think we unpacked everything we've ever learned in our lives and put it into this like couple 100-page deck essentially. And I think we have a really, really good formula in terms of like how we can take this and scale it. And I think it's like kind of like you said, it's kind of just making sure that you're not growing. Like, you have to keep everything in teams, and teams need to be accountable to one another. And just like you said too, about like KPIs and just like making sure that people, everyone's kind of like performing at that same type of level. The good thing is, by breaking everything up into teams, I think what happens is it kind of like creates this unity, and people want to help one another. And one thing that we're really trying to instill in everybody is how to be a good person at your core, and how to get rid of a lot of these like toxic elements like egos and like all that type of stuff that really kind of gets in the way of things, both personally and professionally. And we're going to just keep pushing. I mean, I think really our focus was take everything you hate about the job, eliminate it, and just focus on the fun part. And being that one thing that we really want to do is we want to achieve profitability very quickly and not have to rely on countless rounds and rounds and rounds of funding until we essentially kind of prove that this model works. Our whole thing was invest in the product, create the best possible product, get it to a certain point where we know that we don't need to touch it any more than it is, and just focus on that experience. Start hiring more people little by little, start intaking people, and just kind of, grow. You don't want that crazy hockey stick effect where it's just like, we go from day one to like, next year we're worth, $500 million valuation. It's kind of, I don't know. I think, there needs to be controlled growth. And
Thank you for saying that. As such a young business owner, there's too many people out there that just want to, you hear conversations in business. So I say, well, we're third purchase profitable. What the fuck does that mean? Third purchase profitable. Right? Igor, you've just done it really well. It's just be profitable first. Everybody's going for rounds. People talk more about, hey, did you do your seed? How'd you do this? What's your investment? What's your equity play? Like, how about just providing a good product, become profitable at that? When you're profitable, everybody wants you. When you've got a good model that is prosperous, you know where your revenue is coming from, you got an ideal client profile, you got a good marketing strategy. The marketing strategy is a reasonable marketing strategy according to your revenue and your market, and you just grow your business accordingly. At a certain point, somebody will say, I want that. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to throw a whole bunch of money at it, and I'm going to scale the shit out of it. But too many people have that quick want to turn around business. Oh, I want to sell my business, in 5 years from now. You're 30 years old. You're 25 years old, whatever you are. Whoa, hold your horses. I had a young lady who said, she's 24 years old, and she's going through a whole bunch of stuff. And I want to retire when I'm 27. Are you mad? There's no way. There's like 1.11111% of individual. Yes, billionaires are a lot more prevalent now than they were before because they had money to start off with. If you're starting from scratch, don't think that you're going to be a billionaire. I don't want to say luck has a lot to do with it, but timing is everything as well. If you're at the right place at the right time and you've got a product, somebody's going to want to buy it. Anyways, Igor, I could talk for hours about this. This is really good. What is your one piece of reference that you keep by your bed? What's the book? The saying, I know that your mom said something that was really, really powerful that keeps you up and keeps you motivated. But what's a book? What's a reference? What's a movie that you keep as a leader within your office or your mindset that you always refer back to?
You know what? I actually think I do the opposite. I think instead of finding someone that I want to reference, I think about a lot of people who I don't want to be like. And I think
I
that's
do
what kind of
not
helped.
list. I like that one. I love
Not
it.
list.
I love it. You stole my line. I have a longer not to do list than to do list at the age of 51 as an entrepreneur. I'll have a lot more to not do than to do. That's for sure. Igor, thank you so very much for being on the show. What a lovely conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
People can reach you on LinkedIn, I'm assuming, as well.
LinkedIn, yeah. I don't really have social media, so LinkedIn is the only way.
Fabulous. Well, with that being said, my name is Martin Hunter. I'm the host of What CEOs Talk About. Igor was on the show. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
And this is What CEOs Talk About, where we translate vision into frontline operations. If you could please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you can be advised of when the next show is. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes, or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.